Hello, hello. Welcome to today's installment of the Elevate Coaching Conversation series sponsored by yours truly, Rosella Ide White, your Love Big Coach. This series is a quarterly series where we are helping you consider new possibilities and create new realities through the power of coaching. This month is March, it's Women's History Month. So we are highlighting women coaches who are changing the game, changing the face, and really engaging the transformative power of coaching. So I'm so excited to introduce to you my dear friend, sister, colleague, I don't know, all the things, Micky ScottBey Jones for our time today. So welcome, Micky.
Hey girl.
Hey. I'm closer to you today than I've been in a while because I'm in North Carolina and you're in Tennessee. So it's like I'm waving across state
I
lines.
know.
Well, thank you so much for joining me in conversation today. And so with this series and these conversations, we're just sharing, right? What coaching is, what coaching isn't, the various ways that people can engage coaching, the different work that you do. So I wanted to start with talking about what your moniker is. So I'm the Love Big Coach and you're the Justice Doula. So tell us a little bit about who you are and how you became the Justice Doula.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on this series. It's a great honor because I love you and everything that you do. Um the Justice Doula for me really comes from I was a birth and postpartum doula for over a decade. I was a doula, a childbirth educator, a lactation consultant, basically a mother baby professional. And I came to that work because when I had a baby, I had no idea that was even a thing people could do. And then up late at night, one night, nursing my baby, I was on the internet and I was like, doula, do what? There's people that help accompany someone when they're giving birth. What? That's a job? And I felt a calling to do that work. And so I accompanied people birthing new life into the world. And as my life shifted, and frankly, as I had sort of a burnout moment of my own, a nervous breakdown, if you will,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
huge
Talk
stress
about it.
point in my right. Like I had this huge stress point because that work is so demanding.
Mhm.
Um, I realized that one, I needed to talk about stress and burnout and the impact of kind of secondary stress and trauma, and compassion fatigue, all of that I was seeing in the mother baby realm. And so I actually wrote a book about stress and burnout for mother baby professionals, and then still ended up leaving that field
Mhm.
and got into something that was also stressful because at my core, my vocation is around accompaniment. And so I ended up doing justice work, and started out in kind of faith-based justice work. And so what I realized is that the skills I had learned around accompanying people to birth a human into the world were very transferable into birthing other things into the world: justice, love,
Yes.
all of the things that change makers, those who are trying to birth a new world, are trying to do. They need the same kind of accompaniment. When you're birthing a human, you need to be reminded of things like, okay, maybe rest some now. Here, take a sip of water. Kind of
Yes.
the same thing
Breathe.
around sustainable health.
Continue to
Breathe. It's
breathe.
time to breathe. Now it's time to push. Now it's time to rest. Right. All of these things.
Yeah.
Try a new position or try, let's go for a walk.
Mhm.
Right. But change makers need that same kind of support. And so I transferred those skills of my heart and my hands to supporting those in justice work. And so that's why I call myself the Justice Doula.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like I'm saying this every time I'm having these conversations. I love everything about what you said, everything about who you are. I mean, part of why we're having this conversation to begin with. But this accompaniment, right, which is part and parcel not only to the work that you did as a doula, but this is the work of coaching, right? We accompany people, we remind people to breathe, we invite people to bear down, to stick with it, to let up when they need to let up. right? I think also hold space for people's becoming who they are. So as you have transitioned more into coaching, right? And we're going to talk about the types of coaching you do with both Enneagram and transformational leadership. What are some of those things that you have noticed that coaching provides for people, for organizations, for communities that many folks aren't even aware of, right? Because part of this is, I think coaching is still, especially in the worlds we come out of, is still not something people are clear about. They're like, is it therapy? Is it mentoring? Is it consulting? So what does coaching provide that you also are bringing from this doula and transformative justice space?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is that coaching is about, like you said, holding and about giving people some space, right? A lot of times what I think happens in a coaching session when you actually sit down with somebody and you say, what are you bringing into this session today? What would you like to talk about today? Is that they haven't even slowed down for a moment to think about what it is they need to process, they need to talk about. And, coaching isn't about giving answers. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. Like,
Mhm.
I am not in
Mhm.
charge here. And people would get confused about a doula and a midwife, right? Midwives help everybody get out alive. Doulas are there to accompany you, help you, be with you through the
Okay.
process. I'm not telling anybody what to do. And as a coach, again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. If anything, I might hold up a mirror so that you can see yourself in a true
Mhm.
way and then be able to make more decisions. Or I might help you come up with better questions to ask yourself. But I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm probably not even going to give you any kind of advice. Maybe there are some resources, right, that I know of that you're not aware
Yes.
of. But that is really, I think, the distinctive with coaching is this idea that you really do have access to the answers. And the answers you don't have access to, we can probably find together. So that's where, it really does hone into that you have what you need. And sometimes you just
Yeah.
need somebody to help you slow down, take a breath, and remember that you have access to it already.
I mean, just the slowing down. And can I just say, I'm in a season right now, literally this week is like a slowing down week for me because it's just been going, going, going. And I was like, wait, nope, I know this. I know what I'm feeling. I've been here before. So that means slow down. Yesterday, I sat outside all day in a rocking chair and I was watching the birds of the air and the animals of the fields and just being present and remember, like I was coaching myself, right? To remember who I am, right? To remember what matters most, to remember what is most meaningful. And the beautiful thing is because I do still have a coach, right? I feel like in all of these professions that we do, we have to have the people that are supporting us, right? I could hear my coach saying, literally, because she sends audio voice notes, breathe, right? Remember the truth of who you are, take the time and space you need. And it's so supportive and encouraging. I also loved how you talked about midwifery or being a midwife versus being a doula. And it's almost like midwife is to consultant as doula is to coach type of thing, right? The expert, the one that's coming in, that's telling you do X, Y, and Z, whereas the coach is like, no, you have that ability to root out. And I think that's also connected to our faith commitments. I mean, how does your faith tie into this, right? Understanding that this person, this being, this beloved that you are accompanying has everything they need, right? What is the faith imperatives from your vantage point that lead you to that space?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think coaching makes space for the mystery, the and the farther I am in my spiritual life, my spiritual understanding, the less I know, and that's good. Like the less I need to be sure.
Man,
And
yes.
so, I mean, I do prepare for coaching sessions, but I also really rely on my intuition. I really rely on the sacredness of just space holding. Because what can happen is when I start to prepare, I'm like, oh, I need to know this and this, and I need to, be prepared if they ask about that. And a session could go in a completely different direction. And I've spent an hour preparing in a way that didn't have anything to do with what actually came up. And
Yes.
that's my bad, So it's
Yes.
like, I can just prepare myself and be
Yeah.
in the right headspace. ready and be quieted enough to hold space for them. And so it's that it helps kind of reinforce that I don't have to know everything, because this session is about them.
Yeah.
And it's about, you know, can I maybe ask some reflective questions that can help them come up with some new things, right? So this is all part of my spiritual practice of not having to be perfect, not having to know everything. So it's like that's,
Yes.
that's what
Yes.
coaching is. It helps me as well, like being in this practice, because I am a person who knows a lot of things, has a lot of connections. I've lived a lot of lives, lots of
Mhm.
experience and education. And so I can come in and be like, oh, you should do this, or how about this resource? And I can go into that mode, but that I actually don't think that's where the power is.
Right.
And to bring it back to being a doula, like I had all the gadgets. I had a big bag that I would carry and all the reference books. I had been trained by Penny Simkin, who essentially created
Mm.
the modern doula movement. Like I I had all of that. But what I realized, the more I did the work, the more people that I supported in their birthing, is that most of the time I didn't pull anything out of that bag. I didn't need any of the gadgets. And it went back to the
Mm.
original studies on doulas, which showed that someone sitting in the corner, not touching the birthing person, not doing any interventions, just being there as a witness, changed the outcomes of their birth. They had safer, easier births because someone was there to witness. And so my job is to witness. My job is to say, I see you going through a thing. I see you working on this. I see that this is important to you. So tell me about it. Let me go through this with you. You're not alone. And that's the power of coaching.
Oh my gosh. Like we're gonna take that snippet right there, right? Of just I was with Rashida this weekend and we were talking about witnessing and this notion that we want to change it from bearing witness, because to bear something is like a burden, it's like a load, right? And I still am trying to figure out what it is when I am holding, I mean, because you're talking about holding space, right? Being a witness, and what becomes possible when someone is navigating something and they know without a shadow of a doubt they're not alone and that there is someone there to hold the space. It's almost like you get more courage, you feel more grounded, you don't feel alone and isolated, which I still believe that isolation is probably one of the biggest manifestations of white supremacy culture that we continue to perpetuate, because when we are alone, right, we don't recognize the power of the collective. So that witnessing piece, I think, is so profound when we talk about being the coaches that we want to be, and that it's not about all of the things that we do, right? I know a lot of new coaches are like, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? And part of it is like, just rest in your being. And it reminds me of, your friend, and you were just on Adrienne Marie Brown's podcast or last year with the emergent strategy principles around less prep, more presence, right? Because what you're talking about is trusting all of the things that have happened, all of the insight and wisdom, and being fully present in your body and being in the moment, which is a powerful gift that we get to offer. And so it makes me wonder about our identities, right? One of the reasons I wanted to do this series is because I wanted to lift up coaches that were not white males and
Yeah.
to provide this different way of talking about coaching, right? Because pure coaching is you don't use self, you're just asking questions, right? It's about action, it's about making sure you meet the goals. And the coaches that I am both was trained by, that I'm in relationship with, that's not how we envision this work. The people that we are comes to play, right? Who we are, not only the who we are, but who others are. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your identity and how your identity informs your coaching and also supports clients that may not either see themselves as being able to be coached or coachable because of what kind of the norm has been?
Yeah. I mean, and what you said really relates to my identity and my commitments as a womanist. As a womanist theologian or womanist practitioner, My like my whole premise is that who you are is important to the work you're doing, to the way you understand your life, to the way you understand the spiritual. You cannot somehow become a faceless, nameless blob and like do your work. Like
Right.
that's just there is no neutral, right? You're going to bring in who you are. So, my identity is always wrapped up in the work that I'm doing, and I think that that's an asset. Um, I am a Black woman, descendant of enslaved folks that were brought to the U.S., but also have that complicated, excuse me, that complicated history of having white people in my lineage, and actually connected to one of the most racist senators in the U.S. I'm a Thurman, so
Mhm.
that it's a whole thing that I contend with in my
Mhm.
bloodline. Um, and different connections throughout the story of Black Americans, migration patterns. That's all part of my family's history. And as a cisgender woman who is queer but also was married to a man for 20 years, who's been both conservative and progressive in my Christianity, a mother,
Mhm.
a motherless child, who lost my mother in the COVID pandemic, um, someone who's had multiple careers, who's
Mhm.
understood what it's like to go through kind of a public shaming and public just opinions about me and what I'm doing in the world.
Mhm.
All of this impacts my coaching because, for one, I feel like I that allows me. Did I also say a queer woman? Yes, I did. It allows me to connect with people on a particular, on these particularities. Now, people can just say, "Hey, I just like you. I want you to be my coach," and that's great.
Mhm.
But I would say most of the people that come to me, like right now, I have a Black woman who's going through a lot of stuff with her former work environment, and left that work environment in a way she didn't choose for herself.
Right.
There's a lot of opinions about what happened, and she needs to process that. And so, her being able to look at me and say, "Oh, you share some of my identities as a Black woman. You've also been through some of the things, a similar
Yeah.
thing." She's able to trust me. Again, it's not that I'm telling her what to do or saying this is how you go through it, because her situation is her situation. But there's a kind of trust there. She knows that I'll handle her with care
Yeah.
because because I share some of those things, right? So, and I think that those things are important. It's not just something to get past or to overcome, or none of that matters. No, all of those things matter to me, and have mattered to my experience. And while I may not have particular, pathways to tell her to go down, I can still be there and, kind of accompany her in a way that you can only be accompanied by someone who's kind of been in those similar situations or share some of those identities.
Yeah. Well, and what you're also speaking to, though, Micky, is that you show up fully embodied, right? The fact that not only you are able to name, articulate without apology who you are, what you've been through, and also without, you know, there's that line of vulnerability, like, not the gross vulnerability where everyone feels like now they need to take care of you, but the vulnerability to say, this is who I am, this is my authenticity. And I think that that's really important for coaches to figure out, because as you're saying, right, if our hope and our goal is to accompany people well, and for people to be able to connect with us on a human level, then we have to show up in our full humanity. And I think that in the pure coaching space, it was like, no, you come very well put together, and it's like, well, yes, I mean, I can be put together and I can also be who I am, right? And so I think there's something to be said even for how you move in the world, so that people who have had experiences like yours know that you can be trusted because you share that, right? You tell your
Yeah.
story. You are, um, even if there has been fear or trepidation in doing that, I've seen you embrace all of who you are. And I think that's a gift to behold as well. So thank you, because it inspires us to do the same, right, in this industry. I think one of the things I'm curious about, so you do transformational leadership coaching, and you also do something with this thing called the Enneagram, right? And the Enneagram has been something that I think many of us in particular spaces have heard about. But could you tell us a little bit about the coaching you do and what the Enneagram is and why it's important? And also, we know that it's something for those of us who have any experience with it that has had some of the baggage of whiteness associated with it, and you have been a part of a movement that is asking questions, calling the question, and also saying this is what it looks like to be inclusive in this particular modality. So tell us all about the coaching you do, and specifically the Enneagram. What is this thing?
Yeah, so I have been doing Enneagram coaching longer than just kind of overall leadership coaching. But the reason I went ahead and did training in this transformational leadership coaching is because I do want people to really understand that they can work with me without the Enneagram. If you're like, I don't know what that is, any of what, I don't, it's not my thing,
Right.
that's fine. You don't have to use it. I'm familiar with other kind of personality typing things. And if you want to use any of those, we can use it. But that really comes from, uh, well, it's deeply inspired by this quote by Carly Boyce, where she says, more people would take accountability if accountability were survivable. And so I want to help people who are going through a difficult time, whether that's conflict, whether that's, having hurt or harm someone, being on either side of hurt and harm, right? Having some kind of rupture in relationship or organization, and they're really trying to go towards repair, right? These aren't people that don't care. These are people who care about what it looks like to move towards repair. And you still often, even with now all the guides we have out there, we don't have a lot of people who will walk with someone through that. And I happen to have a really amazing coach that kind of helped me through some of that, Kai Cheng Tom, who does incredible work around conflict and repair. And so that's one of the areas of specialty for me, but also just any kind of transformational period you feel like you're in. Like rupture is often a kind of forced transformational time, but there can just be, oh, my career is changing, or I'm going through a divorce, or like there could be any reason that people want to do that, and that's fine. So often people will come to me in that kind of transitional space in their world. So I do love using the Enneagram. For me, the Enneagram in lots of ways has saved my life, in that it helped me kind of stop hating myself for the things that were just me. Like we all have a personality. We all have Chi Argram, a Black Enneagram teacher, calls it our armor, a way we've learned to survive the world. And the Enneagram just teaches that there are 9 distinct ways that we navigate the world, or that we try to find love and our place in the world. And so we think of those as Enneagram types. And so I help people identify that type, that kind of core strategy or belief that they hold, and then how to work with it to get beyond that armor of type, to understand what their true essence is underneath, and then begin to have more access to the wholeness of who they are, and to have more integration of their full selves. And so I just think it's a really powerful tool. It's been very helpful in my life. It can help you have more empathy, more compassion for yourself, and more empathy for others. And so it's powerful to use on your own, because really the work always starts on your own with yourself, and to use with your loved ones or with your coworkers or things like that. So that's, both of these come from a very personal place for me. And I have experienced that coaching as well. Like you were saying, it's always important for us to have coaches. So I'm always out there getting the support that I need as well. But they really, deeply personal things to me. like there are probably other things I could have chosen to actually make more money in the world, but these are the things that, I feel called to. So I feel like I got to do it.
And I think that's true for both of us, right? Like there are the things that we do because our core motivation, core desire is to make meaning and to usher in change and to be a part of transformation. So my family did the Enneagram a while back, and we did all the things you're not supposed to do. Like we did a typing or whatever, and it came out like, but it's interesting because my brother is a 5, my mother is a
Oh, nice.
1, I'm a 7, wing 8, and I'm trying to remember what my dad is. I have to go back and see. But it's interesting because since my brother and I are entrepreneurs and we work together in our businesses, and we meet every Wednesday, but that has been a tool that we're able, like even now he's like, oh, this is a 5 thing. He's like, I see like where this is coming up. But that recognition that it's a tool that can build more empathy and compassion towards yourself versus being like, oh, I just have to be different, or knowing that my mother is a 1, wing 2, which I think you are. Right?
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
It helps me know in my 7ness what is happening right now, right? So it's been a great tool for self-compassion. It's been a great tool in my family. And I really encourage folks, if you are not familiar with the Enneagram and you want to explore it, people like Micky, people like Chi. I think her book just came out with Broadleaf?
Yeah.
I think my other friend Danielle Fanfare, these are all Black women who are engaging this work. So we're out there, we're in there, and we're supporting it in other ways. So, well, tell people, what do you have coming up? What do we need to know? How do we get in touch with you? All of those things. Just share all the things so people can connect with you.
Sure. Well, my website is my name, MickyScottBeyJones.com. I'm the only Micky ScottBey Jones that exists in the world. So I'm pretty easy to find. Even if you just Google it, and even if you spell it wrong, it's going to come back to me because I'm literally the only Micky ScottBey Jones in the world. And so my website has information about my coaching, facilitation. I also help people with curriculum development. I can do a lot of different things. I've kind of created this life of following my passions and accompanying people in a lot of different ways. So if you read my bio and look over what I offer and you're wondering if it's a good fit for me to work with you, then be in touch, because it probably is. I often do a lot of workshops for organizations. Actually, just before we hopped on, I did an advocacy burnout workshop for an organization that works with parents of young children. So all of my days are different. So I have kind of a lot of different things that I talk about, and I'd be happy to see if it's a good fit. But I do a lot of that one-on-one coaching, where I just spend an hour with folks and we work on whatever they want to work on. So very open to that. You can find me. I have a YouTube channel that actually has some Enneagram panels on it, which is really cool. And I have a type 5 panel on there. It's the most popular panel. So if you want to go learn about your brother.
Yes, and I'm going to send it to him. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
He will love it. It's the most popular one by like hundreds. I do not know why, but really? I guess it's because people want to know about 5s and they're kind of quiet often. So, it's really great. It's very diverse. My goal is to eventually have all of the numbers up there. We don't have a 7 panel because my 7s didn't show up. So,
you know what? 7s be giving us a bad reputation. I will show up as a 7.
Right. Okay. So we got to record a panel because they literally all were like, I'm at a party. I forgot. Or, oh, it was today. I was like, you know what, y'all, you're not helping.
And that's how I know when I'm moving towards disintegration. And part of me taking this week is like, when my 7ness is running wild and free, I don't know if I'm coming or going, even though I might be enjoying it. It's not the most helpful for me in the life and the work that I'm doing. So anyway, yes, I do understand. I will help together.
Yes. So I will try that again. But so I have a YouTube channel with some of my Enneagram content and some other stuff. I think I have a compassion meditation on there. I have, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all the things, and all of that is linked through my website, so people can find me there. And there's always events and things going on, so you can find that on my event page. And really, I keep it more up to date on my Instagram, so follow me there.
Okay. And your Instagram is?
So I have two, because of course I do. See, I am connected to Seven by the energy line. So my one that I keep up with more is electric_lady_MSJ,
Yep.
because shout out to Janelle Monáe. And
Yes.
then, but my Enneagram stuff can be found at Enneagram for the People, because that's what I call my Enneagram work. So find me on.
Well, we will have all of that listed. And I am so grateful for you for the work that you're doing in this world, for the friend, the sister, the mentor, the colleague you've been in my life. And I'm just excited about this season in your life too, because I know that it's really just beginning, right? It's just beginning. So thank you for joining me today. For those who are watching, for those who are listening, I am so appreciative for the time that you chose to spend with us. And this is the Elevate Coaching Series, sponsored by yours truly, Rosella Ide-White, the Love Big Coach, where we're helping you consider possibilities and create new realities through the power of coaching. Join me on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays throughout March, Women's History Month, as we connect with and learn from women coaches who are just doing the damn thing. So I'm so excited to be in this space, to be in these conversations, and thank you for being here.